So, Bree, thank you so much for joining me. Welcome to the Soul Collective podcast.
Thank you. It's an honor. You're such a shiny light.
Well, thank you. It is such a pleasure to connect with you. The one thing that I want to start by asking you is, what do we not know about how powerful we are?
Oh man. Well, not that I know my power that's for sure, but I think like anything, it's an infinite process. But I've been channeling and connecting for over 10 years, and I always look back. I'm gonna get emotional. It's just like, it's so sweet. And this is just something that I do lately. Unfortunately or fortunately, I'm okay with it. It's like when I feel, just in service, and then like truth moving through me. I feel like I'm getting a bunch of kind of love upgrades. And so sometimes when it happens every time I teach or I'm on a podcast, and then I am really centered, and then I'm like, wow.
Yeah. So that's something that I've noticed actually, because I told you before that I kind of prep by listening to several different interviews. And one of the things I've noticed is that you do get emotional,
Yeah.
and just share that. And I think it's like one of the things that I really love about you.
Oh,
And it's curious because like, I feel like we sometimes block that. So we're conditioned to, and I feel like if we let that come forward, we would have such an even closer connection to spirit.
yeah, it's important. And you're right on. And I just actually, I definitely want to answer that question. Part of it was just like realizing that it's so vast and, massive, and it's not like a sadness, but it's really beautiful, what we're capable of. But I actually also just had a friend that had a NDE, a near-death experience, like last week. And she was talking to me about it the other night. And that's one of the things she said. She was like, that she kept repeating. She said, it's so important for us to feel and be engaged with life. And, I think we all say that in different ways. I'm always just saying like, hey, we're sentient beings. Like, we're meant to feel our way through things. And it's important to move through all of it and through the pain. I kind of make that joke around like, how did the awakened one get to the other side? And it's like, through the pain, and it's not always fun. But yeah, I've really been looking at hardship from that lens lately, because I know that there's a greater freedom on the other side of moving through the mud. But yeah, I really believe that our potential is infinite. And when I was mentioning the channeling piece, because I have just, when they tell me what we're capable of, I'm like, like it sounds
Like, what
so,
are some of the things that they say that?
yeah, I mean, just that we can create portals of, into other dimensions, and not from a place of escaping, but that our bodies are so miraculous. Like they told me a long time ago, they're like, hey, your bodies are made to literally, they could live forever. Like, and that sounds insane because we live in such a finite linear world.
Right.
And they were like, they hold information from dimensions of time and space, like all whatever thing. I think within spirituality sometimes we have this concept of we have to go somewhere else, or we have to go into the Akashic records, which is great and a tool, but it's literally like it's in our bodies and in our soul and our sphere. And it's a matter of tapping into that. And then talking to my friend who had that NDE, she was like, it's in our DNA. I was like, yeah, I know. She's like, I saw it. I'm like, I know. And that we can, it's easy to stay under the spell that form is form, matter is matter. But it's all really mutable. And if you just break it down on an energetic perspective, everything is made of energy, and there's like molecules moving at all times. And to even just try to, what I'm doing recently, especially after my conversation with her, is I'm just trying to retrain my brain, that reality is quite mutable, and everything is moving and shifting and changing. And we have the power to, from more of a collective perspective, we can, we have 0 point energy. We can also channel that through us to create, and we're thinking that
Mm.
we have to create energy and gas and coal and like all the, like, from more of a collective mentality, but we really have the ability to tap into universal life force.
Yes.
We're just we're just the sleepy bears.
Well, along that, like, I want to ask you, how, in what ways do we shut ourselves down and really block ourselves from all that power?
Yeah, I think there's, so many ways to look at it and go about it, but I think an easy way is to just, have the recognition of, um, you know, I guess it's an aspect of duality in which we have the ego and the soul, right? You can call that fear or love or, illusion or truth. And to walk through this life believing that you are only your body. Here I go, waterworks. Sometimes it's like I can't, I just like, it's like connecting with you too. Sometimes when I'm teaching, I'm like, I'll move the screen so I can't see everybody. And I'm like, okay, all right. Um, yeah, just choosing the perspective of, am I only this body? Am I just Bree? And therefore, do I have only Bree's needs? Am I finite? Am I, all of my worth has to come from an outside condition. I say like the ego's like obsessed with conditions.
Yes.
And, so you're from that mentality, or, are you connected to all things? Are you consciousness moving in form? Are you, and just the way, if you just try it on for a second, it already shifts, your emotional state and your vibration and the way that you're going to look at things. And so it opens you so much, I think, just to play with that. But then, so ultimately how we lock ourselves in is thinking that we are limited by our own form, and then everything we do to sustain that identity. It's like,
Mm.
the light beings and stuff are always just like, aren't you tired of that? Like, isn't it tiring, everything you do to sustain that? Like, future, past,
Yeah.
all these crazy, silly, whatever it is. Like,
There
yeah,
can be so many different things that really keep us anchored in that. And that's why I love how you really bridge this gap between like the physical plane and metaphysical, because I feel like we need that. Like we do, there's so many anchors to pull us back. And when we get really more connected on a soul level, that's when things really start to open up, you
yeah.
know?
And it's
And
not,
so,
yeah, it's not to like skip anything and like not go through the human experience. I'm always like, it's here, it's here, it's here. Like, we came here to transcend what is here. We didn't come here to like wait it out and then like somewhere else it's going to be better. Like, it's all connected, right? And I just think it's so important to, particularly right now, it's like, it just feels vital to wake up.
yeah, yeah. And Bree, I'm so grateful to have you on the show today. And we're going to connect about all the things spiritual. But I want to ask you first, like, what are some of the things that are like really human about you? Like maybe it's like a guilty pleasure or like a show that you like to watch. Like what are all the things?
I mean, all the things. I never want to come off like I have it figured out or that I'm, not. um, but I think it's interesting what I'm looking at lately, and have been. I mean, my Achilles heel is also like my like karma dharma. Like, I have such um honor. Wow, am I going to get through this interview or what? I just have such honor in what I do, and I love it, and it's like it means everything. Um, but then there's a part of me that, like, in my personal life, where I'll get like, I have a short fuse if people aren't learning with me, or they're not learning at my determined rate for
Mm,
you know?
Yeah.
And I'm really trying to work on that and soften, because I know that growth isn't linear, and whose business is it? Like, definitely not mine. And so, yeah, and that's a real human thing that I think I'm, yeah, working through right now. But sure, I mean, I'm really hyper aware right now of how I'm spending time, like not even online shopping, but like maybe like online dreaming or whatever it is. I'm just like, I got turned on to this new auction site, which I got this table that like I'm so in love with for my living room. And but then I'm like on there going like, girl, what are you looking for? Just like, what do you need?
Yeah, I feel like we all need a little bit of that right now, just like, and so and also too the emotion. So like I love that you are just like coming forward with your emotions, because I feel like somehow on a collective, like we need to feel that, and it's
Mhm.
so important. And this has been such a emotional year, and I feel like some of the tension, at least like that's what I'm feeling, is like almost a like bottling up of everything that we're going through collectively.
Yeah, it's a huge shift. It's real. I'm like, it's happening and it's real. Like, and I just keep coming back to, okay, this is why you came. Like, I didn't, although I love, rosé and like vacations where you're just like chilling. And I was like, oh, you didn't come for that. Like, you
Yeah.
apparently, you came for, yeah, bigger reasons, as we all did. And so, yeah, I think it's really interesting. It's like we're getting this shakedown, and we're being like, our growth isn't as much of a leisure as it was before. We're just like, well, maybe I'll choose that now, or maybe I'll do it later, maybe.
Yeah.
And now it's just like everything is heightened, and so it's, yeah, it's obviously bittersweet amongst this chaos. Is an opportunity to like, we're always like, the veil, let's look, the veil's lifting, and it's like the spiritual thing. Me like, that shit means you need to drop that ego and like all the desires that are scary to let go of, because they're safety, right? Like whatever, money or however you're holding that ego up, yeah, those
Yeah.
have to go when the veil lifts. So
Yeah.
can I bring my Prada purse? No, you're not going to be needing that.
Yeah, I love how you kind of describe it as like not really as much of a choice right now, because the pace of things previously, I feel like everything is accelerating in a way. But I want to ask you about your process and your journey and how you got to be doing this incredible work in the world. And like, were there really painful moments that kind of like led to the work that you're doing, or like, what did that look like for you?
Yeah, and that's such a good parallel and point, right? This is like our collective growth spurt, hopefully. I'm like, hopefully.
Yes.
um, but yeah, I think my path was a series of, life bumps, um, and also, it's something that I always had within me, and I do share over and over again that we are all intuitive. We all have access to whatever information that we need. It just takes a harnessing and, some guidance and support. And so as a kid, I, had experiences, and as most of us do, and there was nowhere to place them. So they kind of transferred into fear. And I just like shut down a lot, but I didn't come in super psychic. I wasn't like seeing through walls, but I was just like, yeah, like this is why I'm here. And I was talking about God, and like my parents, I wasn't raised in any type of religious or spiritual anything. And so I was like dropping hints and seeing things. But yeah, shut it down. But then it was always like a part of, excuse me, something I was drawn to. Like even as a kid, I was really into crystals, and I would make my parents buy me like these like old like there were these Time magazine books, and there would be about the pyramids, or like, I was curious, and but was very human, and went to college and studied business because I was like, okay, this is what you do, you fit into society. But when I did when I went to college, I also did a study abroad for a semester, and that really helped me like get out of it like freed me up, because we're used
Mm.
to being seen a certain way, and so we continue to show up a certain way.
Yeah.
And then here I placed myself on the other side of the world, and that was scary AF. Like, I remember crying the first night, like, what did I do? What the hell did
Where did
I
you
do?
go?
I was in Spain.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great experience. So yeah, anytime that we allow ourselves to kind of show up differently, I think, we reopen to our innate selves. And then, like my mom had gotten cancer, and that really woke me back up. It was like, anytime we have a brush with death, even with ourselves or, a family member or hardship, we're just like, oh, God, hello, are you there? Okay. Like, you want to recreate that relationship
Yeah.
real quick. And also because there's like nothing else to hold on to. So you're like, okay, I need to, find hope or faith in some way.
Right. Were you in
Um,
college when your mom had cancer?
Yeah, she had got it when I was like in 8th grade, and then again in college, but it was like more serious. Like she had to go through chemo, and she had a mastectomy,
Yeah.
and so it was a little bit, it just felt bigger. And maybe I was older, I was able to process it a little bit more in a real way, I guess.
Yeah.
So those things, and then, after college, well, that was my last, my last semester was in Spain, and then I like literally bounced when I got back. I was like, I'm done. And I left on my last semester of college. Like, I didn't finish. And I moved to LA because I was like, I'm a dancer and I have a gift to share with the world. And it was like so naive and ballsy, but it was great. And so, yeah, I guess kind of like a life jump,
Yeah. So you were like full on pursuing dancing at that point of your life.
Well, I mean, it was a hard right, because I just like was in college, it's like maybe I want to work in the nonprofit world. I wasn't sure. I'd always danced. Um, and I think with dance, it connects us to our bodies and our energetic selves and our emotional self. And it gives us a lot of really beautiful tools. And then I also saw like, oh, I can have a creative lifestyle versus like it needing to look like a 9 to 5.
Mhm.
Like that was an important piece. But yeah, I like pursued dance, and I was on the struggle bus, but I did some fun jobs and things, and it was really important, but it wasn't my path. And but when I moved to LA, there was more of a spiritual community. Like I learned how to meditate. I would go to Agape, and then I started to get messages like, you're a healer. And I was like, what? Like a massage therapist? Like, I was just like, what do you mean? Like with my sweet dance moves, or what does that look like? And, and then just continued to lean in, asked for a teacher, and she showed up immediately. I mean, I had always like seen psychics, not a lot, but I just never fathomed that I could do it, because at the time it wasn't like trending. So it wasn't like, hey, this is a thing, sign up for my course and you can do this thing. You
Yeah.
just like knew a psychic that you could call, like a friend told you about it.
Yeah.
So, but
Did
my,
you have an interest in it at that time, or
oh,
was it like,
oh my God, all my books, metaphysical,
yeah,
self-help, like forever. That's the only thing I read. So yeah, I mean, and you know how that goes. It's like, you just have to finally lean in, right?
yeah,
Okay, it's everything that I love. And that's another example of like how, it's so hard for us to just trust in the heart, like this space where we feel truth, and this space that lights us up and guides us. It's like, but we have so much conditioning that's just like, nope, you won't survive if you do that. And I've
right.
never been, the more that I lean into this work, and my more like authentic or transparent self, I tend to use the word transparent because I want to be the person that I am with my friends when I'm here on this
Yeah,
interview. And it takes like,
love that.
you got to practice it, but yeah, I've never been doing better, like, you know uh,
Like leaning full into your gifts.
yeah, and just who I am. And yeah, but yeah, I think that when what I've noticed is like, when we ask for things that are in alignment with that part of ourselves, they can come in easy. Like I asked for a teacher, showed up immediately. um and then, but sometimes, we ask for like this specific thing, and you got to check yourself and be like, okay, what is the desire? What is the deeper intention with this,
Yeah.
you know? And yeah, it's just interesting. And then and it doesn't take much to just feel where you are. I mean, you can fool yourself, right? Like, because the ego can hijack anything. Like, it's like spiritual career, got it. It's just like, I'll like strangle that, you know. Whatever the pure intention is. And I think just trying to come back, I always try to come back to that. But yeah, so to sum that up, I took a class. Well, I met a teacher days after I asked, and she sat next to me on a plane, and I saw myself working for her, and she handed me her card. She's like, "You should come take my class." I took her class, ended up working for her, taking like some, other classes, and then continued to study. But I was just a really good student. Like, I read the book twice, I practiced. It wasn't like I was just like born psychic and now, it was a muscle that I really had to, and that's why I love teaching it. Like, it's just, I don't do readings anymore. I only teach people how to access this part of.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think it's really exciting to like listen to you share your story and sort of the trajectory of growth, because sometimes you might have like an interest or feel like passionate about it, but it's like, well, I don't, I'm not like channeling and I'm not, psychic, right? So like I might as not pursue this, but like it helps to hear, somebody like yourself who is doing it at such a high level and helping people, all over, is like, you really did have to hone and cultivate your gifts, even though you have like these natural, like, inclinations, right?
Yeah. And then, I think for me, my soul, my expression, it was obviously an important part of my path. And so who knows how you use those things? Like, I have people take my course and they just want to take it for themselves to realign with who they are, or a lot of them are just doing readings or integrating the energy work that they had, or maybe they're an artist and they're doing, there's so many different ways that you can integrate this, connect. I mean, I want to call it intuition, but yeah, just like your soul's essence. So
Mm.
it's infinite. But I remember too, in another mentor of mine, she was channeling once, and it's the first time I had seen somebody channel, and I was like, "What are you doing?" Like, I was just like, "So what?" I was so thrown off. And she was channeling like Kuan Yin or something, and Kuan Yin looked at me and she said, "You can do this. Why aren't you doing this?" And I was like, "What? Using a fake accent and like acting strange?" Like, I was like, "No." So thrown off. I really did not ever think. And the same woman, who's a dear friend of mine now, and she's an incredible psychic. She looked at me once and she was like, "You could be a medium," and I was like, I don't know," because I like had been haunted and stuff before, so it was like, take that back. I want nothing to do with it. But it's such a different experience when you experience, connecting with someone from the other side with, from light. And yeah, anyway, my point is, I just never knew.
Yeah. So was there any resistance within you or like your, family or closest friends? Like what was it like for you to sort of like come out of the spiritual closet?
Yeah, it took some time for sure. And I think, when I made the transition, I was in a relationship and living with my boyfriend, and uh, we had some other things that like weren't totally in alignment, but we've been together for years, and um, that piece was hard. And when I look back on it, I wish I had had a little bit more grace. I mean, ultimately, I don't think we were supposed to be together, but when I look back on past Bree, I'm like, girl, like, I just was so excited about everything. And it was like, I wanted him to be on board for it. And ironically, he had grown up in kind of a spiritual like household. So he was like, ugh, it was shoved down my throat. He was just like already over it. But to me, it was like shiny and new.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just, we had kind of different belief systems. So we ended up breaking up. But again, it was like the best thing for me because I really got on my own 2 feet in a lot of ways. But Even it just takes you like opening the door a little bit. Like I know that I just had to get curious and then someone would come in my life. Like I remember I just had one spiritual friend that was like witchy and things. And now it's like everybody in my life, not that they're necessarily doing this at all, but they're open.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't feel uncomfortable when people aren't, and I don't need to prove what I'm doing is right, because I think, when we're not sure in our beliefs, then we have a need for somebody else to be on board. Like if we really know what to be true, we're not asking anybody to get on board for that or getting triggered around someone not believing in what I believe. But that takes time and it takes moving through. And I think too, like for any of your listeners that are, maybe have a hard time with family members or, friends that they've had a long time, um, I try to use, language that's comfortable for people, um, because you can find that you can find your way around it. Like even if I tell some people that are like, maybe they're thinking about taking my class and they're like, oh God, my husband is going to like not be into this. It's like, instead of saying like, I'm taking a psychic class and learning how to talk to light beings, like I'm learning how to lean into my intuition and really listen to the bigger part of me, right? You don't have to, and that's not like, I'm not saying like lie to your husbands, but like, yeah, just don't, I'm like, why say something that's going to cause somebody to, get uncomfortable
Sure.
um, or clench or anything. So yeah, I think language and making it your own. And yeah.
So well, I want to go back because you started out, on this career path to become a dancer and then met the spiritual teacher and like really studied closely. Like, I feel like pivots can be so challenging, as we move forward and we have to like let go of past identities of ourselves. Was that difficult for you in any way, or was it sort of just like an organic process?
Well, it was exciting because I had, when I took this like the teacher's training course, I remember sitting in the room and I was with a bunch of people that I was like, oh my God, everybody in this room believes that we live and we have infinite potential and that we really can heal ourselves and others. And I just was like, so I had like that light, which we don't always have with pivots. Sometimes you get like pushed off a cliff and it's a pivot.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, I guess, I think in that particular part of my life, I had to work through the ego saying, oh, did you fail at this? And are you just going to fail at that? Like, because it was a choice I was making, as far as dance or whatever. And I know I was also working for a nonprofit organization, and it was a outreach program for kids through dance, but I was like the regional director for the West Coast. And I gave up that job, and my boss was amazing, and it was really, it was fulfilling. But I had been doing and I had been doing them side by side. Like I started doing readings, and then I still had my nonprofit job, and I was like teaching dance and whatever.
Yeah.
And then I found when I decided to make that jump, that was scary because I was letting go of a secure income. Um, yeah, so that was huge, and I was choosing to believe in myself and to fully step into the unknown. And it's what's cool about any type of entrepreneur expression, is that you're required to stay on top of what your belief systems are, right? Like you
It just
can't,
shows up for you. You can't like escape it, right?
yeah, which is how life works anyway. But it just is, I think there's a unique expression when you're doing that. You got to be really aware of what you're believing to be true and how you're showing up. So it's one of the best decisions I've ever made. But I didn't just go, okay, universe, catch me. Like, I got some things in order. I got some stuff under my belt. And even though it was a jump, I still did it in like I don't know, like I did it in a little bit of a prepared way. I didn't have a savings for and it's a long period of time, but I had enough under my belt where I was like, okay, I can make this work if I really commit. So
Yeah, yeah, that's helpful to hear. Do you feel like, did abundance show up for you right away, or was it something like energetically that you had to like really work at?
oh man, I struggled with money for most of my life, and my perceptions of money, I should say,
Yeah.
what it meant in relation to me. And I'm really thankful, um, because sometimes there's a part of you like, oh, why didn't I grow up with money? Like why? My mom, grew up really poor, and she made, her own, like was just such an incredible, like made a life for herself and like raised me. And so, and not, I'm not like blaming my parents. It's just like you come from these perceptions of how life is, or who you are in relation to, in this case, money or whatever type of value. So I had a lot of stuff to work through, and I struggled with money again, like most of my adult life. But I, and every time I teach, even on this retreat that I'm doing here, my partner's always like, can we talk about money with people? And I'm like, nope. Like, because I'm like, it's never actually about money, because it's an expression, or a manifestation. It's one, like if we don't go to the root of what our real core beliefs are, and how we're negotiating ourselves with the world, um,
Mm,
it's just going to transfer or show up in another way. So it's good to say, like, what is my relationship with money? Um, but in simple terms, when we were talking about how I feel that I'm the most transparent in my life right now, and also the most abundant that I've been, because I'm not saying I need you to sign up for this thing so that I have this, so that I feel this way about myself.
mm,
I'm not asking, I mean, I'm for sure on some levels, absolutely, but not like I have been before around, in this case. So say within my job now, I don't hold a lot around needing my students or my clients to prove that I am whatever, that I am worthy, that I am, um, good at doing this, that I deserve to be doing it. And I've worked like through those things
yes.
consciously for years. And I wish it could have been faster, but yeah, I think it's good to look at, in general, anytime we have a quote unquote like block,
Hmm.
is just reframing it and saying, how is this here for me? How is this here for my growth? What am I asking of this thing to prove for me? I'm and how can I like release it of the obligation of proving to me that I am whatever? And so if it's money, if I have X amount of money, or the job, or the boyfriend, or the body, or the thing, whatever it is, then I'll feel what? And what will you know on a deep level? So you just kind of like look at, what is that little ego actually looking for? Because it's not the money, and it's not, because it's, how it is, whatever it is, it's like, that's not enough, that's not enough, that's not enough. Or within a relationship, right? You're just like, I just need you to do this. They do that. And you're like, oh, now it's this. Like, it just changes, right? So what are you asking that thing to uphold for you? And how can you begin to nurture that unconditionally? Because that, none of our healing will ever be in form. Like, it doesn't lie within the form. And that's the whole idea about transcendence. It's like seeing the illusion, um, of the form, or beyond the form, into what is it actually there for within a relationship, or whatever it might be, um, and harnessing that and opening to that unconditional awareness on your own, because all of our healing will have to be unconditional. um, and then the form can change, or the amount of money can, just like, we don't have, and if you just think of it energetically, if I'm like, if I need you to like give me this thing, that's going to be a block, right? um
Yeah, and
yes.
I think it's such a helpful thing to kind of talk and share about right now, because there is like, you know, things coming up around scarcity and, you know, the unemployment rate. So like it is maybe something that if you are triggered in that way, that you might be like more so during this time, just because you know, you're hearing about it more. Maybe it's something that like you're personally going through. Any tips, Bree, like to kind of really work through that on an energetic level?
For sure. And, you know, I think collectively we are looking at the ways we have believed we have needed to sacrifice in order to survive. And then that's what I mean. It's like, it's hard. Like, even though I have this part of my life going well, it doesn't mean that I don't have another area of my life that's been really, you know, challenging and difficult. And so, you know, from this like conditioned collective thinking, we're taught that we have to, you know, I'm just trying to think if I should taking it either like on a personal or collective scale. Um, but if you think about, I have to take it higher and then we can take it lower. Because sometimes when you take it higher, it feels like you're not being compassionate or aware of, you know, what people are going through. But to zoom up and out a little bit, it's hard what we're going through. And there's a crumbling that's happening of a lot of old systems. And those systems are linear and kind of like sacrificial. So if I am in a job where I think I have to sacrifice my whatever, my personality, maybe I'm working like, you know, and stressing myself out, and that's just part of the job. What am I investing in, like within that company and that structure? Um, and there's a really incredible opening within all of this hardship for us to be able to reframe how business is done, um, how we can show up in the world. It's even around just like community. You know, I'm witnessing so much more collaboration with, you know, people coming
Yes.
together and saying, how can I support and offer you this, you know, like kind of like a bartering system. Um, and yeah, so I think with, you know, being in a hard place around, money and finances and fears about the future, like I get it. Like it feels really scary right now because it's like we're getting the rug pulled out from underneath us. So when COVID first started, I did a couple, like, and me too, I've been like trying to donate my time more, or like a percentage of all my classes now I donate, and I didn't before. But what we were looking at is like, what are some of the like your inherent curiosities that you've always had? Like, and again, this sounds like it's too zoomed out, but like, what if you only had your inherent gifts to share with the world? Then what would you be offering and doing? And that doesn't mean that you have to create your business overnight, but you can start thinking about, you know, what does it look like to be in service? Or if you're struggling with your business, like, and it's counterintuitive because when we're in lack, when we're like scared, we don't want to give more. But I have found, like, I did a scholarship program at the beginning of COVID too, and I gave away like a boatload. Like, I don't know what, I want to say like 20 to 30 scholarships or something. But then it ended up being really good for my business, but that wasn't my intention, right?
Mm.
And like a bunch of other people signed up because whatever, you know, I did another percentage off and then people joined. So just gazing at like, what does it look like to be of service? What if I only had my inherent gifts? Who's in my community? Who can I, you know, join forces with? What have I always wanted to invest my energy in? And yeah, I mean, sometimes we are hitting a bit of a rock bottom collectively.
Mm.
And I think if we just, yeah, it's I'm going in more now than I have before ever, like meditating 2 hours a day. I've never done that in my freaking life. Like I'm the laziest psychic you'll ever meet. But harnessing that innate self, like doing whatever it takes to sit with yourself instead of satiate, because it's so easy to, the brain just wants you to avoid. And but inspiration comes from presence. And so even just sitting with your emotions, and again, it's like really counterintuitive because we're so used to doing, but I think this is really our time to, as much as we can, try to be with ourselves, with nature, with each other, and present to the emotions that are coming up. Because anxiety is just like, it's like it's the denial of presence. It's like emotions that have been trying to come up to move through, like, hey, I want a voice, I want to be heard, like, and we're just like, well, that's too bad, and I like, push it down. And so they're going to keep coming up until they can be released. So
There's so much that you hit on there that really, really resonates, that I just want to unpack a little bit, because I feel like when structures and systems are crumbling, there is a resistance, and that can cause like a lot of like
okay.
yeah. So anyways, I just, what you were saying was really resonated, because it really, I think that there is a amount of resistance that's coming up. And then also, we're not necessarily traveling as much as before, but still there is like this fatigue this time of year. Like I know I feel it in myself and a lot of people that, I've spoken with recently. It's just like a little bit of a lower energy level. And I think what that is exactly what you mentioned, is like this need to really go within and tend to the self. So I want to ask you, like, what are some of the practices that you really, put into practice for self-care?
Yeah, I want to, yeah, I was gonna say, this is actually something that I'm doing and something that I have been sharing that I think has been helpful too. I taught this class last week for empaths, and we tend to think with intuition. And also, if you consider yourself an empath, that like, we just have to feel whatever comes up of other people's stuff, or just that we're not in control of what we're experiencing. And that's a total myth, particularly with intuition. We're just not usually taught how to navigate and create boundaries for ourselves. So when I will say, in regards to empaths, and also just like feeling the quote unquote weight of the world, we can't experience anything that's not within our vibration on some level. So I always try to take accountability, and what am I holding? Like, even if I am feeling the weight of the world or somebody else's stuff, is like, why am I doing that? Again, with the belief in that smaller self. What have I learned about taking on other people's energy? When did I learn? Did I learn that as a little girl? Was I taking on my mom's energy to be safe, to get love? Like, just being aware of the beliefs that are in place that are causing us to experience the thing that we quote unquote don't want to experience. So having that gentle, soft awareness. But what I've been practicing when I have stress come up, or anything, if it's a sadness, I'll do breath work, and I'll try to do some kind of introspection more around it. But sometimes just getting present with the feeling, like we're really not accustomed to doing that. So as it comes up, the other day I was working on something, it was like a deadline, and I was just like stressed, and I just kept pushing. And there was an unconscious belief that it was like, yeah, this is just what you do when stuff has to get done. This is just how you feel. This is just part of it. And I was like, oh, girl, I was like, put my computer down, and it took a while, but I just sat with the stress and felt it in my body, and like breathed into it. And it was like I was sitting with the energy and the emotion, and I wasn't focusing on it and saying, oh my God, what is it? This and that and the other. I was just breathing into it and bringing presence to those areas, and just really checking in with the body, trying to not have any thought to like fix it. It wasn't a cognitive practice. Because really, when we are present, we are healed. Like everything exists in presence. Like our
Mm.
healing is there, truth is there, inspiration is there, God is there. So when we're suffering, we're living in some other, future past fantasy world. The other thing that can be helpful when you are having feelings come up, when you sit with yourself, sometimes I offer, like, what would it feel like to breathe in ease? Like if I was feeling stress, because we don't want to go in with like fixing it and getting rid of it. Like everything bears purpose. So we're there, and you can't always go into something like what right away. What does it mean? What is this here for? What's my growth? Like we have to, feel it, move through it. And then when we reach that kind of softer space, and I offered that, like, we're not trying to fix it, because with that cue around what would it feel like to breathe in love, like if you just took a few breaths, and like what would it feel like to breathe in presence, and relaxing the body as much as you can. And then maybe, if you feel a shift, holding that space in your body. You can hold it with your hands or just hold it in your awareness. If you want to imagine, if you're still feeling it, stay there, or you can surround it in light, and just, this too is beloved, right? Like this too is divine. And maybe just asking gently, once you feel a shift, how can I serve you? Um, what are you here for? And when we go in to ask these questions, just trust the very first thing that you feel or sense or understand. And maybe again, um, maybe you're breathing in that essence, or maybe it's just an awareness that you need to hold. And I think the more that we get used to kind of just sitting with ourselves and feeling, and having, communication with our emotions and our body, also the easier it gets. So that is like something that's so simple, but so powerful, because otherwise round and round we go to the condition to fix the thing of how we feel, and it's never going to be there. And then we need to get to that soft space to where we can open to, oh, this is the move I need to make. And I think one of the other things that we underestimate so much is like what we're doing to stay in flow. So I usually recommend, like, just like spending a little time journaling and just writing, like, what are some of the things that my soul likes to do? What is I bet my body loves when or
Mm.
I feel in alignment when and they're all probably, you might have meditation in there, but there might be all, completely physical. And how much time are we spending nurturing that, our essence, our life essence, and how can we spend more time doing that? Because we say, we're like, yeah, I want intuition, and I want abundance, and I want ease, but how much are we making room for that, our infinite self, to drop in and being? I think, we tend to think like, oh, if we're unconditional, we're not going to get what we want, right? But the irony is that, like, the things never really bring us fulfillment. And then when we can allow that part of ourselves through, I think wider paths open, or that at least has been my experience, and our blinders kind of come down. So maintenance, like, what are you doing every day? Doesn't always have to be meditation, like, um, sitting with ourselves. And then just, I'm trying to train myself into presence. Like, as I move throughout, if I'm taking a walk in nature, I can have the awareness of, okay, we're not gonna, I don't need, I can gently be like, okay, we don't need to replay things. And then, maybe I'm looking at the trees, and the mind still wants to go to beautiful tree. Oh my gosh, look at that light, this and that. I should take a photo. And it's like, can we just not can we just not have any thought? Like I'm trying to just like get myself to not have thought. And then as I'm moving through the harder stuff, you know, how would my soul see this? How is this here for my growth? Where can I let go? You know, where am I holding too tightly? What would happen if I let go of this? What could happen if I let go of this story? Or yeah, so just kind of reframing from the soul. That was a lot, but not really. It's just presence and
Yeah. And so
yeah.
if somebody, Bree, is listening and they want to really cultivate their intuitive gifts, would your advice be the same? Would it be those same practices, or are there additional things that people can do?
Those practices will really help. And we tend to think like the intuition always only happens in these pockets, like when you go into the meditation, when you have a psychic thing, but it really is that opening of your field and the dissipation, just like dissipating your thoughts. I don't know if dissipation is a word. make it a word.
Yeah, it sounds like it is.
um,
How
so
have you seen like your gifts deepen and activate over time, and maybe like your inner world shift as you've done this consciousness work?
I was so slow when I started my like the intuitive work. Like I was slow. Like I would get one thing and then I would just, you know, try to milk it. Like I see my students, they're so much, I was like, you guys are moving so much faster than I did. And I think it is part of too that collective shift, like of what we're like, oh, this is possible and I can do it. And, but I was slow, I practiced, and then, uh, you know, I think to remember that doubt is just a part of growth. So it's not bad. It's not bad if you have doubt. Like, you know, when you have fear come up, it's good. It's like our greatest agent for growth and transcendence and freedom. So being easy on yourself, and trying to trust more, like, yeah, it's just kind of like saying the thing, you know, if you are practicing with others. But I would say just like pay attention to the way that things come to you. Like I'm not very clairvoyant. Like I don't see a lot of things. I'm very audient
Okay.
and I'm cognitive. So that's why channeling I think has been easier for me, because it's like I've always kind of, it's like I take dictation, you know, I'm like listening, I'm hearing. I'll see things once in a while, but I could have gotten stuck for a long time if I was just like, well, I'm not clairvoyant.
Nothing. I'm not seeing anything.
Yes, I'm not going to go down this path. But yeah, it's just like nurturing what you know. And we have all of them. And I can work on that one. But yeah.
So two questions for you. Have you really begun, or, you know, over time developed such a deep trust for yourself through this process?
You know, yes, I have a strong stance in my knowing of, you know, our bigger role, like that this isn't all there is. Like that, I'm like, I feel, you know, that feels really ingrained in me. Um, but what I will say is that I still experience doubt. Even when I go into channel, like when I do in-body channeling, which is like how Abraham Hicks, you know, she speaks, right? There's a lot of other people to do it, Bashar, and, you know, and it's so weird when I do it. Like my whole body, my mannerisms change, my voice changes. They're not thoughts. It's like, it comes in a stream. But when I get out of it, I go, huh, that was weird. Did that really happen? I'm just like, what happened? You know, it's like, so there's part of me that's still, and it's ridiculous because then I'll like watch it or I'll read through. Sometimes when I'm channel writing, I'll be channeling, and as it's happening, I'm like, snooze fast. I'm just like, this is dumb. Like Bree's in the background going, what else you got? This is not going to be good enough. And then I read through it and I'm like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. So there's
Yes.
that critic that never really goes away.
Well, it's helpful to hear you say that, you
Yeah,
know?
share. It's like, it's okay. It's just like, it's part of growth. It's part of, yeah, I mean, we want to work on it and, soften it, but.
Yeah, and the second question that I had is because you mentioned that you're clairaudient.
Mhm.
So, are there things that you notice like that can throw that off? Meaning, like, you didn't get enough sleep, or you ate like a lot of processed food, or something like that.
Yeah, it's good to like check into like when you do have wins, like intuitive wins, just kind of be aware. Like it's not that it's always, it's not structured and linear, but just like, okay, what did I do? What did I do these last like 24 hours or even the week? And what might have attributed to that to just like for yourself. Um, but things that block me, when I'm really down and it's personal stuff, I feel like I'm too far away. Like I'm just like, I can't. And maybe I'm not even supposed, like, that's not even going to be helpful, right? Like, because probably it's like when a friend's like, you're going to be okay. You're going to get through this. And like, this is, he wasn't the one for you or whatever. You're just like, shut up. Like, like part of you is just like, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes you just have to like move through the stuff. But they've told me before, like sometimes I'm pretty lazy. Like I won't channel unless I'm in service or like in dire need, which I'm working on. I want to, because then it's like, I know that's part of my ego being like, let's just stay small. Let's just stay right where you are. Instead of connecting every day and maybe expanding. But, they've told me, I've gone to like sit down and channel and they're just like, hey, that's your belief because it's been so long. They were just like, we're here, we're ready to go, like fire away. So just I think like being aware of, I think our perceptions probably are the biggest quote unquote block.
Yeah. So, anybody that's listening, when you're channeling light beings, are there specific entities that you're connecting with?
Well, I don't have like a main boo that like Abraham Hicks, it's Abraham, right? Or Bashar does his like future alien self or something. Um, I tend to just like swim around a bit, but I am well, I started with like I had an Ascended Masters deck and I
Mhm.
would just I would like pull 3 cards and I'd be like, you're up, like, let's do it, and get used to just practicing. So I started doing that. And then lately, I've done there's a lot of channeled insight on my site, just free, like it's under resources instead of free resources.
You have
And
so many great resources on there.
oh,
I love
thank
it.
you.
Yeah.
I'm like, is this too many links? I don't know. Let me
Yeah.
know.
We'll link to all of those in the show notes.
Yeah, but there's a lot there from like the Palladians. Even I always feel uncomfortable still saying it, and so I call him Jesus, like Jesus. I'm just like, it's okay, it's Jesus, it's all right. But then it can also be like Buddha, and I don't. Again, I didn't grow up in any type of religious background at all, but he's in my sphere, and I've actually had 2 psychics tell me that I was there when he was there, like out of the blue. They like stopped the reading and they're like, Jesus is here. And I was like, well, why? Him. I was like, what? But yeah, and then I've been working with these Arcturians lately. There's a group of 3 that I've been working with and they've been fun.
Cool.
So yeah, I switch it up.
What are some of like the coolest messages that you have received?
Hmm. Well, some of them, I guess the ones, there was an experience I had that like took me a long time to process. Uh, on my 40th birthday, I went and swam with humpbacks in French Polynesia, which
Amazing.
I know it sounds like crazy, but I found tickets for like $600. It was like, it was like everything lined up and I just made it happen. I've always had a real connection with whales and dolphins and stuff. And afterwards, I connected and I was like, okay, so like, what were the messages? What do they want us to know? And they were like, they're just kind of, they did it, it's on my site, the channel piece, but they basically broke down, um, they were like, they were basically like nothing, they were just like, you had the experience. And um and then they started talking about purpose, and how, you know I was kind of like, sorry, I'm trying to, like, I'm totally stuttering, but like, because I'm thinking of like where it started. um they were talking, oh, I know what they said. They were like, love is not really a thing. They said, because I was going in and still do, like, whatever's true is based in love, and untrue based in fear. But the way that they proposed it was, all that is real is life giving, and all that is unreal is like contracting, or not,
Life
would
draining.
take away your force. Yeah.
Yeah.
They said everything in the universe is just about expansion. It's just, they said, look at the animals on your planet, look how they're driven, look how, they're driven to procreate and feed, and so they were like, it's all really just about expansion. And I was like, that feels really flat. And they were like, did the whale feel flat? I was like, nope, the whale did not feel flat. And so they just went on, and I said, well, what about our purpose? And they said, you have to take the meaning out of everything in order to understand oneness, to arrive back to oneness. And I
Wow.
was like, gulp, because and they were like, but hey, it's okay. It's how you're learning right now. And it's how we're learning. We're learning through the identity. Yeah.
Explain that a little bit more, like if you could.
Yeah. So, it kind of goes back to what we were saying in the beginning around the identity and the ego versus the soul. And when when they were saying, you have to take the meaning out of everything, if you look at every time we suffer, we are giving it meaning in relation to the identity. So when you look at something and you just say, okay, what does this look like when I take my investment out, or my opinion out, or my identity, right?
Mm.
And so when you take yourself out, and the ways that you're invested in it personally, it's neutral. It's truth is neutral and everything is neutral. And so we are learning through these bodies and through these identities, but eventually, on a larger scale, we're getting back to that oneness. And so just looking at what we're doing every day, and the thoughts we're having, is this life affirming, is this life giving, or does this feel contracting?
Mm-hmm.
And just gauging it, even just gauging it on a sentient scale. And it wasn't like cold, it was a really beautiful message, but it was just saying, basically everything is neutral.
Yeah,
And
well, I think that's so true, right? Because we do give so much weight to, like, for example, our purpose, like, what is my purpose in this lifetime? And I love, something that I've heard you say, which is like, everything is unfolding as we unfold, right? So, like, our purpose is going to evolve and change as we grow and expand. And I
yeah.
love that. So what, Bree, are some of the greatest lessons that you feel like you came into this body in this lifetime to learn?
Mm. Um, if I can, really quick, I love that question, but I just want to say, with purpose, your soul doesn't care. Like, your soul's just like, it doesn't matter the form. Like, watch for that sneaky ego trying to hijack being important through the purpose, right? Or
Yeah.
that it's outside of us, that we have to go find it and it's under some secret rock. Like, have to go through some crazy, like, yeah, hoops to find. But it really is, it's about every light that you touch and every feeling that you feel.
Mm.
Um, and it doesn't matter the form. It's like really just going back to that intention. Um, and what fulfills us and what gives us life. So, my biggest lessons that I came in, like, is that the frame?
Yeah, to learn or to teach about.
Hmm. Yeah, I think sometimes when they talk to me about why I came, it feels big. Like, so sweet, you're making me cry. Like it feels too big to like step into or like take seriously. So it's like I don't even want to say it, but I know that's my ego too being mixed up in there. Um, but I think if you ask yourself, geez, I'm just gonna take a breath. Cry baby works. I looked at this the other day when I was teaching that empath class, and I was like, because this has been happening for like a year, where because they're not sad tears, they're really beautiful. It's like this
Yeah.
um, and I was like, no, I like it. I'm gonna keep it around, but I'm like, maybe I do need to shift it a little bit so I can get through an interview.
I
But
think
I
it's
think,
really beautiful.
oh, thanks, babe. Thank you. Um, if you just ask yourself, like, what would you want to remind people of? Like, what's the most important thing for people to know? And that doesn't, that's, it can show up in your business plan, but it ideally should show up as you move through the world. And so when someone asked me more or less that question, it was a business coach trying to get me to hone in on some things. And I just said, you are not your pain. And I think that's like, it's always what we need to remember when we're moving through things, our, whatever we would say, whatever yours would be in your perfect transmission light words. And so I hope to remind people of of that. And yeah, just that they're love and they're just so brilliant and capable of like legit anything, and that they came here with a great purpose in a sense of like being able to surpass what we've been conditioned to think or believe. I think there's, not, I don't mean to be dark, but I feel like there's a lot of intentional fear that's like pumped into
Yeah.
consciousness, and to just be aware of like, was this taught? Does this feel like truth? What does truth feel like is something I've been asking myself and everybody. Like, if nobody ever told me what truth felt like, how do I experience truth? And
Mm.
where and when? And you can even replace that word with love or God. And then you can come back to it. And is this true? Or what is true, right? When in this moment, what is true? Yeah. And having that be your guiding light. And yeah, I think there's, yeah, I just want to remind people that they're miraculous and here with great purpose, with that framework around purpose. Yeah.
Yeah. Any other like last words of wisdom or messages that have really come through that have resonated with you that you want to share?
Um, maybe would it be okay if I just read a tiny bit from something that was
Yeah.
channeled over the weekend? Because
Yes. I
I
love
mean, maybe
that.
it should come from me, but then I'll just cry. So, all right. Um, well, I'm gonna cry when I read this too. But this was from over the weekend, and it was when I teach breath work, I usually I channel for the class. I just like get out of the way and hold them in love, and then just ask for things to come through. And then I share some of this in the class and then send them uh, the transcribed things. And then this part, I had connected with the Lemurians, the Arcturians, and Jesus. And so this part is from Jesus, and he said, peace is presence. Can you feel it? Can you feel how it greets you, how it invites you in and pulls you into the field of awareness that is pure, abiding, and true? Peace is here in your heart. It exists not in the promise of a future or a detail within form, but in your heart. If you were to carry this light of peace, you are unfathomed in truth, untouched by the expression of form. You see only the truth of the eternal working in perfect order, and you do not carry with you your fears or reasoning, only the light that can carry you to the greater truth you seek through those things. So he was saying, like, just nurture peace, because it's all we're ever looking for. And in peace, when we, as we were talking about even just the gentle ways that we can nurture it, that's where we become unwrapped by form and condition. There's just a little bit more here. It says, notice how fear feels within your temple, within your body. It causes you to brace, instinctually react to an illusion that is not even yet in form. Does this feel like the path to enlightenment? So what truly carries you, dear ones? What lifts you to the light of God and the bliss of presence? And is it not enough to entice you to live here, to pursue this? And I thought that was so beautiful. He was just saying, like, look at the moments that you have felt unconditional and you have been swept with love. And is that not enough? He says, to entice you to pursue this instead of the world of form.
Yes.
And he said, has someone told you that it was impossible, that it was not worth the attainment? And did their investment bear purpose? So he's saying, like, where did you learn that it wasn't worth it?
Mm-hmm.
And when you did learn it, because you did, and when you did learn it, just considering that somebody had their vested safety, and that might have been a mother that loved you and said, be careful, so there's just a couple more lines. The one who is unscathed is unwavering in their peace. The one who pursues this peace, the unconditional peace, will never be disappointed, because it is also the pursuit of all truth, the very fiber of creation. So what is it time for, dear ones? If you look upon the chaos and disarray, what is the greater calling? In our truth, we bear no pain. So how are you here to be a vessel of truth? And what is your language? Meaning, how will you express that truth? I mean, it might be, art or whatever. How will you gaze upon yourself, those closest to you, the earth you stand upon, and the future you deem is so important? But if God resided here, would you acquiesce to the truth that lives beyond the illusions you have built? You are the light and truth of God in form. Do not be wary of the world before you. Tend to your garden within, and you will experience the heaven you dream of.
I love that so, so much. Thank you, Bree, for sharing that. It really goes back, to the first question. So it goes full circle in terms of like how powerful we really are, and being able to connect with that through peace and through the present moment. So thank you so much. Such helpful words during this time. Where can people go to connect with you and learn about all your beautiful offerings?
You're so sweet. I want to thank you too. You're just such sweet light. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm gonna work on these tears. I'm like BreeMelanson.com. No, that's my name. It's BreeMelanson.com, BreeMelanson. And I have a free 90-minute intuitive training on my site. Lots of channeled insight, and we didn't talk about it, but breath work is a really powerful modality for moving out old patterns and emotion in the body. And I have a free one on my site that's shorter to start with. And then on the gram, I'm just at Bree.Melanson. So I would be honored to meet any of your listeners in any of those places. Yeah.
Awesome. Yes, we'll link to all of those ways to connect with you in the show notes. Anything else, like in terms of overcoming or letting go of those limiting beliefs? You mentioned breath work. Are there any other, modalities that you recommend?
I like breathwork because it is yours, and it's not something, once you learn the pattern, it's like it's something that you can access whenever you want. It's not some, long, complicated training or something that
Yeah.
exists outside of you. And what it does, it gets you to a really transcendent state, and it's very healing and on a physical level as well. So yeah, and then just, the things I think we talked about is shifting our perspective and asking, like, what questions are we asking, and what evidence are we collecting? I'm looking at that too. I want to start collecting evidence for more miraculous things, and yeah, kind of witnessing the love that is transpiring through everything right now. So yeah, for me, asking bigger questions and connecting more deeply, and yeah, harnessing truth, um, I think is just, yeah, so important right now. So
Yeah, such great tips. Bree, thank you so much. I just want to thank you for your transparency and for your heart and for the beautiful wisdom that you're sharing with the world. It's been such a pleasure connecting with you.
thank you. And I'm not shaving myself for tears. I'll go deeper, go home, baby.